Imagine waking up one morning, scrolling through the news, and seeing this headline: Tariffs on Indian imports are fueling inflation in the United States. At first, it sounds like another distant policy battle in Washington. But then, as you pour your morning coffee, you start thinking about what that actually means for you, your family, and your future.
Suddenly, it's not just about trade wars and politics. It's about higher grocery bills, rising healthcare costs, and young workers watching their paychecks shrink. And for seniors depending on Medicare, it could mean struggling to keep up with medical expenses that are already stretching thin.
This is the real impact of tariffs. They don't just live in government documents or political speeches. They hit at the core of everyday life. When tariffs are placed on imports from India, one of America's major suppliers of pharmaceuticals, textiles, and household goods, the costs trickle down quickly. Importers pay more at the border, businesses pass those costs along, and ordinary Americans are the ones footing the bill. For context, India supplies a huge share of the world's generic medications. These lower-cost alternatives keep prescription drug prices under control in the U.S., especially for seniors on Medicare who rely on affordable options to treat chronic conditions. But when tariffs raise the cost of these imports, drug prices climb. A senior living on a fixed income, already battling inflation in food and rent, now faces a choice between buying medicine or covering other basic needs.
That's not just unfair, it's dangerous. And it doesn't stop at healthcare. Tariffs affect textiles, raw materials, electronics, and essential household goods. Every product that becomes more expensive because of tariffs adds to the burden of inflation. And inflation doesn't discriminate. It squeezes everyone: young workers trying to save for the future, middle-class families budgeting for their children's education, and seniors watching every dollar of retirement savings. Now let's dig deeper. Why does this hit Medicare so hard? Medicare is a government program with budgets set years in advance. When drug costs rise because of tariffs, Medicare must absorb those costs. That usually translates to higher premiums and out-of-pocket expenses for beneficiaries. And if the government struggles to contain those costs, lawmakers often look for ways to shift the burden back onto the people who rely on the system most. In short, tariffs on Indian imports don't just raise grocery bills, they threaten the stability of America's healthcare safety net. For young workers, the picture is equally troubling. Tariffs drive inflation, and inflation erodes wages. Even if your paycheck looks the same, your money buys less. Rent, gas, and food take bigger bites out of your income, leaving less room for savings or investments in your future. Add in rising Medicare payroll deductions that come with budget pressure, and young workers feel the squeeze from both ends. It's a silent tax, a hidden cost, and it grows heavier every month inflation drags on. Think of it like a domino effect. One tariff on imports triggers higher costs for businesses. Businesses raise prices to protect their profits. Inflation ticks higher, forcing the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates elevated. Higher rates mean mortgages, credit cards, and loans stay expensive. And all of this loops back into households across America, where people are simply trying to make ends meet. For seniors, imagine opening a Medicare statement and finding your premiums are rising again. This time not because of new benefits, but because of global trade disputes. For young workers, imagine realizing that despite working longer hours, your paycheck doesn't cover as much as it did a year ago. And for families in the middle, imagine trying to balance both realities at once, caring for aging parents while also supporting children. Tariffs on imports might sound like a technical policy issue, but they turn into real struggles for real people. Supporters of tariffs argue that they protect American industries and jobs. They claim that reducing dependence on foreign goods strengthens national security and creates opportunities at home. But critics warn that this protectionism comes at too high a cost. Instead of helping workers, tariffs raise prices on the very consumers they're supposed to protect. And in an interconnected global economy, punishing trade partners like India risks damaging relationships that are essential for affordable goods, medicine, and technology. It's also important to note that India isn't just another trading partner. It's one of the fastest-growing economies in the world and a key ally in balancing global power, especially in the face of China's influence. Straining that relationship with tariffs could have long-term consequences beyond economics. If India redirects its exports to other countries, America may find itself paying even more for essential products, or worse, facing shortages.
Meanwhile, ordinary Americans don't care about political points or trade disputes. They care about whether they can afford their prescriptions, whether their kids can go to college, and whether their paycheck lasts until the end of the month. And when tariffs drive inflation, the answer to those questions becomes less and less certain.
So what's the solution? Experts suggest more strategic trade policies that focus on negotiation instead of punishment. For example, targeted agreements with India to ensure the steady flow of affordable medications and essential imports could ease the burden on Medicare and consumers alike. Domestic policies that strengthen supply chains and increase competition at home could also lower prices without punishing families. But until those solutions take shape, the reality is this. Tariffs may be billed as a tool for protecting American jobs, but right now they're fueling inflation and leaving both seniors and young workers under pressure. Here's the bottom line. Tariffs on Indian imports aren't just an abstract policy debate. They're a pocketbook issue with far-reaching consequences. They raise the cost of living, strain Medicare, erode young workers' wages, and push families into tighter corners. Every time Washington chooses tariffs over cooperation, it's ordinary Americans who end up paying the price. And that brings us to the question, how long can families bear this pressure before something changes? Will leaders find a path forward that balances fair trade with affordable living? Or will seniors and young workers continue carrying the weight of decisions made far above their heads? Thank you for tuning in to this deep dive. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on how global policy impacts your daily life. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Remember, every decision in Washington connects back to your wallet, your healthcare, and your future. Stay informed, stay prepared, and together, let's keep asking the questions that matter most.